If you've ever struggled with prioritizing writing projects, finishing writing projects, or just straight up overall struggle to be productive when it comes to your creative projects in general, then this video is for you. I think from the outside, it appears that I'm someone who's very productive because I have YouTube channels, I put work out, I've written on television shows, and so on and so forth. So I think people have the impression that productivity comes very easily to me and that I do things without struggle or difficulty. But that is not true. I am just like any normal lazy bitch. I get demotivated. I struggle with emotional regulation sometimes that makes it difficult for me to get my work done. I am just like any normal person. So what makes it possible for me to get work done? If you get nothing else from this video, I want you to take this away. The way to get work done is to let go of whatever idea you have around what productivity looks like and to embrace what it actually looks like for you. Now, I've said this a bunch of times that I feel like when it comes to productivity, our biggest issue is that we're looking at other people and seeing how they are productive, and we get disappointed when those same things don't actually work for us. But productivity is not about how productive you are in comparison to other people. Productivity is about how productive you are in comparison to your past self. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 7 steps necessary to prioritize your creative projects, to finish them, and to actually be productive. Step number 1 is to remember that you are an entrepreneur now. Now, I think that this is a very important step that a lot of creatives forget because they never think about making that mental transition into creative entrepreneurship. If you are a writer who wants to have an independent writing career and you're thinking, I'm not an entrepreneur, I want to correct you right now. You are an entrepreneur, whether you like it or not, because when you are working in a regular 9-to-5, you have people like a boss dictating what time you come in, what time you leave, what work you get done while you're there, what the standards are that keep you there. You know, if you fall below a certain standard, you get fired from your job. If you don't perform to a certain amount, you get fired from a job. And the thing that a lot of writers and creatives miss when they're trying to make that transition into being a full-time writer is that they forget to apply the same standards to themselves and their writing as a job would apply to you. So that means that if you consider yourself a creative entrepreneur, then you recognize that it's up to you to create a certain times that you show up to work, to write, that you create certain goals for yourself, that you have to reach these certain amount of pages written, goals for your career, things that you want to reach, and then break that down to the level of what do I get done in a week to reach those goals. My point is that when you make that transition from I'm just a writer to I am a creative entrepreneur, and it is up to me to create the standards that my writing is going to follow. How are you showing up to your writing career? Are you showing up at all? Are you showing up consistently? Do you have goals for your career? Do you have goals for yourself? How are you showing up in a way that recognizes that you are responsible for pushing your career forward because you are the one that's responsible for creating opportunities for yourself? So now that you understand that you're a creative entrepreneur and that it's up to you to set up the structure for your own writing career, how do you want to show up? How many hours do you want to put into your work? What goals do you want to set for yourself in terms of the product that you put out? Do you want to write 1 television script a year? Do you want to write a narrative a film? Do you want to write a book? What do you want to create for yourself? Because you are a creative entrepreneur and you're the one who sets the standard. Number 2 is making a plan for your work. Now, one of the things that I always suggest is that writers create an endpoint for their writing projects. This is the way that you're going to know how to prioritize your projects. I always feel like whenever a writer comes to me and tells me, like, I don't know how to prioritize my projects, it tells me that you have no plan for that project. You don't know where it ends. So it's really hard for you to prioritize it because you don't know where it fits inside of your timeline. So I always tell writers, whenever you have a project that you're working on, create an endpoint for it. And that means finding some real world deadline for your project as much as possible. Whether that is a film festival that you want to submit a script to, or a script writing festival, or a workshop, or a competition, or maybe it's that you want to submit it to a writing group. Whatever it is, the most important thing is that it is real world, which means that real people are waiting to read your pages, and that there are at least a little bit of consequences, at least minimum consequences, like people are disappointed in you or you disappoint someone for not turning it in on time. Now, why is this important? It's important for several reasons to create this real world deadline. An emphasis on real. This is not an arbitrary deadline for yourself that nobody else knows about. This should be a real thing that is happening in the world that has a real deadline that you need to adhere to. And these are the reasons why. Because for me in particular, I found that I am so lazy that I need actually the threat of embarrassment and humiliation to get work done, because I'm not going to do it otherwise. That's me. That's what I learned about myself. I will literally find real world things that have real deadlines that I have to send my work to. I even feel like this YouTube channel is a real world thing because I want to build this YouTube channel. And I know that in order to build it, I need to consistently come up with content. And if I don't build it, I'll be disappointed in myself. Other people might potentially be disappointed. So you see, I need actual fear and, consequences, or I'm not going to do nothing. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not just like naturally motivated like that. Maybe some people are, but I'm not. So what is your real world deadline that you can find? And here's another reason why it's super important that you find this, because not only does it give you that actual fear that gets you to stop procrastinating and actually do the work, but it creates automatic structure and urgency for your project. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. When you pick a real world deadline, like let's say it's a fellowship competition, and it would give you a really great opportunity if you got in it. So this is real world deadline. It has real consequences. It creates automatic urgency and structure for you, because let's say that deadline is in September and we're currently in March. Then you automatically know how to prioritize that writing, because you know that you have some maybe you're going on vacation with your family in June. So you have to schedule your writing and the amount of pages that you need to get done so that you can meet that September deadline. You can automatically look at your calendar and know that, hey, if this deadline is in September, and I'm currently in March, then I better start working on this in July for sure. Or I can start ideating it now and start planning how to write it later. Do you see how that automatically structures your project for you? It automatically balances and makes you figure out the level of urgency and prioritization that you need to have towards that project, because you have a real world deadline for it. Not only that, you mentally know when this project needs to end. When you don't find a real world deadline for your project, then that means that this project never ends. You don't know when it ends. It could end forever. And there are some projects like that. There are some projects that you just have the idea, you want to get it out, and there is no urgency for it. There is no deadline for it. It's just something that's going to keep going until you do find that urgency or you do find that deadline, and that is totally fine. Number 3 is to let go of what productivity is supposed to look like for you. Now, I talked about this earlier in the video, and I feel like it is one of the most important things that you can do. There's so many productivity tools and tips and tricks out there. there are famous people who put out their writing routines and like they wake up at 5 a.m. They write for 5 hours, and by the end of the year they've got 1,000-page novel. They got a Lord of the Rings done, and you're like, I should be able to do that. I should be able to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. And when you try that and it doesn't work for you, because maybe you're naturally more of a night person, maybe you're the most creative at night. When you try something that is quote unquote what productivity is supposed to look like and it doesn't work for you, it has the potential to make you think that there is something inherently wrong with you, that you are just not capable of being productive. When in actuality, you're just holding on to this idea of what productivity looks like instead of doing what you really need to do, which is embracing who you are and figuring out what works for you. Which brings me to my next point, which is to allow yourself to grow into your most productive self instead of forcing yourself to do what doesn't work for you. I want to elaborate this a little bit because I feel like it sounds like the last one, but it's actually different, which is that I think one of the things that people really struggle with is that in-between time. That time when they have a goal that they want to reach and they have these ideas about what their productivity is going to look like. For instance, they're like, I'm going to wake up every day and write at 10 a.m. I'm going to work out. I'm going to write at 10 a.m. And that's a wonderful goal and it'll bring you really far, But what they don't consider is that they might not be the person yet who wakes up and works out and then is writing by 10 a.m. and can do that consistently. What I'm asking you to do in order to become your most productive self is to give yourself grace in that in-between time, is to let yourself become the kind of person who wakes up every day and works out and writes and works towards their goals every day. And what does that grace look like? It means allowing yourself to show up imperfect. It means that every day is not going to be 100%. Maybe some days you have 30%. Maybe some days you have 90%. Maybe some days you do it. Maybe some days you don't. And instead of beating yourself up and deciding that this means that you're never going to reach your goals, is what you do instead is that you give yourself grace for that in-between time. You let yourself become the person who does that kind of thing, because the reason why you're not doing it yet is because you're not that person yet. So let yourself become the kind of person who reaches the goals that you want to reach. The next one is to let go of time expectations. And now I feel like this one is really important because this is one of the most frequent things I see in people that I work with, creatives that I work with in coaching in particular, is that they'll have this giant goal, like they want to write a feature, or maybe they want to write their first half-hour pilot. It doesn't have to be like a huge page count, But the thing that they do is that they really underestimate the amount of time that a lot of their goals are going to take. Like, I'll see somebody who's like, I want to write a feature. I want to put up a solo show. I want to write a half-hour pilot, and I want to do it in the next 3 months. And usually it's somebody who's never done all of those projects at one time, or maybe has never even completed one of those projects completely. And this is what I like to call, in the nicest way possible, delusional, because it's not that you can't do it. It's that you have grossly underestimated the amount of time that these things will take. Because especially if it's your first time doing all of these kinds of projects, you really don't know how long it's going to take you. Like if it's your first time writing a feature, you don't really know how long it's going to take you because you don't know what your writing style is. You don't know what your capacity is to focus. You don't know if you're going to be able to actually express the ideas that you have in your head and what it's going to look like when you start doing it. There's so much that's going on with you when you're writing a thing for the first time that you really have to let go of this expectation or this idea that it's going to take me 3 months. Really let go of that time expectation. It might take you 2 years to do all of those things. It might take you 2 years if you want to do an indie short, if you want to do a feature film, if you want to do a half-hour pilot, and you want to do those 3 things it might take you 2 years. It might take you 3 years. You really don't know. And one of the things that really makes people quit and get frustrated and just lose momentum and lose motivation is just this delusional thinking that it's just going to take a few weeks or a few months. Let it take the time that it takes, because remember, you're becoming a person that writes those things. If you've never written those things before, even if you have written those things before and you're trying to get to the level of working writer, you're trying to get to the level of I write for a living, you're going to have to become the person that writes for a living. And that might take years, and that's okay. The next thing is to make sure that what you're doing, the creative work that you want to do, aligns with who you are and where you are right now. Now, I can't tell you how many people I've seen who are really struggling to be productive, and they haven't addressed the fact that, hey, this creative project doesn't align with me right now. It's not what I want to be putting my time into, but I'm forcing myself to because I think that I have to for some reason. If you are struggling with productivity, sometimes it's not about your lack of, understanding about how you are when you're the most productive and things like that. Sometimes it has to do with, this is just not the right project for me right now. This is not the right place to put my energy right now. I don't really care about this right now, and that's okay. Your creativity is always going to be here for you. That's what I love about being a creative, is that we can dip our foot in and out of creativity because it's not just something that we do for work. It's something that is inherent within us. We are all creative beings, and you can be creative whenever you want. You can be creative in any context. It doesn't have to be a context of I'm trying to get paid for it, which is, I love that for you. I want you to get paid for it, but creativity is yours. It is not a commodity to be sold, even though I love it when you sell it for yourself. I love that for you. But just remember that just because you're not writing right now doesn't mean that you're not a writer. It just means you're not writing right now. Write when it means something to you. Write when it makes sense to you. Write when you want to write. Write when you have something to say. And last but not least is to make sure you are well resourced. What do I mean by this? I've said it a bunch of times that a lot of people who struggle with productivity, they don't really recognize that one of the things that is the root of the problem is that they're exhausted mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Maybe they're grieving. Maybe they just moved. Maybe they're under a tremendous amount of stress. Maybe they're sick. There's a gajillion things that could be going on, but creativity and productivity require your cup being filled. It requires energy. And if you don't have the energy, then you are doing yourself a disservice by not taking a step back and refilling your cup, whether it's resting, getting a good meal, connecting with family and friends. We need those things to fill us up. Or maybe it's that you need to step away from your creative work and go live your life and go travel and go for a walk and go do something different because you've been staring at the same page forever. You're not well resourced. You're depleted. And any level of depletion is a sign for you to go replenish yourself. It's a sign for you to go take care of yourself. I promise you, the work will always be there. The work will be there when you're ready. It's your job as a creative entrepreneur, as a working writer. It's your job to take care of yourself, to take care of your well-being so that you have something to give to the world. We don't have anything to give when we're depleted. So those are my tips for how to prioritize your creative work, how to be a productive baddie, how to get it. So that's all I got for you today. Until next time, get out there, get to work.